Hey everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. It's good to have you with us, Kendall, my friend, as always. Good to be with you. I'm sure there's going to be a few more people jumping on here today. We've got some pretty good responses back from this, sent some messages out, and we'll keep you posted, but we'll get started here in just a quick minute. I want to give you some insights as to what we are doing today. We are going to be starting our mini series on, and this is a little bit more basic than most, but we're going to start our quick mini series. Hey, Michelle, good to have you with us. We're going to start our mini series on marketing objectives inside of a Facebook ad set. We had the opportunity over the last few meetings to share with you some pretty cool insights as far as what is the creative hub, how do you create an audience, how do you go through the audience insights, and now we're actually getting into the ad sets. Last week, we had a great webinar with one of our clients, Pedigo, and we were able to walk through some of the details of that client's information, and it was a good experience. So for those of you that were with us, thank you for being with us. I'm curious to find out, Michelle, Kendall, I know, Kendall, you're joining us from here in Idaho. Michelle, where are you joining us from today? If you can find the chat window somewhere on looks like you're on a mobile device, we'd love to have you chat in with us. Spokane, Washington. Awesome. Okay, well, let's get this show on the road. I don't want to spend too much time waiting for people because you guys are all prompt. So let's begin. When you're creating a Facebook ad set, the fun thing about the whole context of Facebook advertising is the sheer fact that you can really meet the target demographic where they are. Now, this is making the assumption that we already have a pretty good idea of who our audience is. And again, if you go back into some of the previous webinars we've gone and walked through audience insights. How do you determine whether or not you have an audience? What is that audience? Who's creating that audience? And, all the different demographics from age to language to socioeconomic status to interest to behaviors. There's so many really cool things that you can do from a targeting mechanism to really get into that. But today we want to talk about these first two sections, which is brand awareness and reach under an awareness campaign. So how you get into this, first you go into your business.facebook.com account. Up here in the top left-hand corner, you'll see you can pull this drop-down menu. If you don't have Ads Manager, you can go into All Tools. And as you can see, we went through Audience Insights, Campaign Planner, Creative Hub, and now we are into the Ads Manager. Now, there's two different ways that you can build out your ad sets. You can do those in Power Editor, or you can do those in Ads Manager, depending on the complexity of what you're trying to establish. Either can work very well. Also notice that inside of when you create an ad, when you begin the ad set, the very first thing you need to do is select your objective. I want to walk through just really briefly what each objective is and what you might use it for. So think about this in the terms of a sales funnel. When you're talking about sales funnels, a sales funnel, if you look at like a funnel that you put in to put oil in your car or gas into your vehicle, things of that nature, the funnel at the top of it is typically a lot wider, and then it narrows down to some little small section that goes into the actual chamber that you're going to put your oil in or that you're going to be putting your gasoline in. And what's exciting about a sales funnel is there's opportunity in every aspect of that funnel. We are going to be talking about the top third, if you will, of the funnel today by talking about that section that has the broadest opening or the widest opening, and utilizing that specific element of Facebook advertising, which is awareness, to create that initial exposure to start to bring people into your sales funnel. Then as we go through it, so the top third, if you will, would be the awareness. The middle third would be consideration, and then the lower third would be conversion. Now, as we go through this, also think about the temperature of your audience. I often find people quite frequently that are running conversion ads at a cold market, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just sometimes the association with that conversion ad and trying to get them to convert. And when they don't know who you are or what you represent, it makes it a little bit more complex, and your conversion rates have a tendency to be a little bit lower. So let's talk about this. So let's talk brand awareness, which would be your top third of your funnel. Picture that with me. Consideration, which is the middle third of your funnel, and then conversion, which is the bottom third of your sales funnel. Okay, and underneath each element of marketing objectives has all sorts of different things that you ought to consider. And again, brand awareness and reach inside of the awareness campaign, we're going to go into these in a lot more detail. Consideration has driving traffic to a website, creating engagement on your page. That could even be associated with ManyChat that we've talked about a few times. App installs, video views, lead generation, which is more of a lead ad, building out your actual landing page inside of Facebook so that you're not going external to an external landing page. And sometimes Facebook likes that. Or you have conversion, which is getting the person to drive valuable action to your page and then getting them to convert on your page. Product sales, which might be more associated with creating an ads that show a product or service, or just driving people specifically into a location. I like the flow process of, when you're talking about store visits, it's a conversion metric. So you want to really create that initial brand recognition. If you look in the world of advertising, traditional advertising, social media advertising, whatever advertising is out there, there's always been a tendency first to create brand awareness. And brand awareness has been done in many different forms and fashions in the past. Many people have used influencers, i.e. celebrities, professional athletes, for the past many years in that traditional space because they feel like we have an awareness based on a recognition of influence, a person of influence that can drive that person from that cold market down that funnel into a warmer market because you're associating a celebrity, if you will, with a product. And now there's more familiarity of that product in a consideration metric based on the celebrity that's associated with it. Now, social media marketing in today's environment has the same capabilities, but the cool thing about social media marketing in general is you have the ability to become that person, become that brand that's recognized. And because people have less and less affinity towards celebrities because of all the news and information that's out there and the chaos that's out there, people have a lot more tendency to connect with someone who's authentic and real. So by providing value-based content, education-based content on the front end in the awareness segmentation of a marketing objective, now you have the ability to really build a brand, if you will, or a recognized name or face of your company that people can start to build out long term. Now, I had a podcast. I'm starting a new podcast called the Journey of the Entrepreneur podcast. And I did an interview with a gentleman that lives in Cyprus. He's from England originally, and he's become a local celebrity by using awareness ads only. And he said because of the time and because of the timing of which he did that, he became more or less a public figure in that area because of his use of awareness ads. So we'll talk through a couple of different ways that you could potentially use brand awareness. Mitch has some things prepared on the back end to show you that you can actually measure conversions from awareness, from the awareness objective, even though that may not be your number one goal of creating or utilizing that specific marketing objective. Mitch, anything you want to add to that first dialogue?
I was just going to add, there's all these different objectives, but what difference does it make? It's still showing ads to people on Facebook. And what I learned is that's what I used to think. I used to think, oh, they're just going to be showing ads, so what objective does it matter? But I learned in a specific example where I tested this is I did a reach campaign, and sure enough, it got in front of a lot of people. We'll talk specifically about what that is. But nobody started engaging. Nobody started, they weren't clicking on the link. They weren't really looking at the picture. It was just being shown to a lot of people. And then I switched over to an engagement. And sure enough, the engagement was higher, but it got shown to hardly anybody. And so getting it in front of a lot of people, which was part of the goal, was very, very expensive. However, I was getting engagements. And then I switched to awareness. And again, it was different results. And so this was the same ad with different objectives, with these different objectives that had vastly different results. And that's because what all of these objectives does is you're telling Facebook, I want to optimize, or I want my ad to perform best in this category. And it's astonishing how much of a difference it can make.
Yeah. And if you
Sometimes.
look at just under each section of your marketing objectives, there's a little I at the right-hand side, which is for more information. And if we read through the objectives, it says brand awareness is to increase awareness for your brand by reaching people who are more likely to be interested in it. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means that based on their interests, based on their behavior, based on their online activity, they've already expressed some sort of an interest or a behavior that associates with the brand awareness concept. Meaning, if let's say, for instance, I'm in the digital marketing or social media marketing space, and I want to create exposure, well, this is going to go more specifically to those people that are interested in online marketing or internet marketing or affiliate marketing or social media marketing versus just creating a massive audience of people. And there's the difference, right? Because brand awareness is getting in front of people that are likely to be interested in it. Reach is just showing your ad to the maximum number of people. So you might question, and Mitch, this is a great point that you brought up. You might question, okay, why would I use one over the other? So let's dive in, Mitch. I'm going to share with you. Am I sharing my screen? Okay, I am. So, Mitch, why don't you pull up your screen? I'm going to stop sharing mine, and let's go through some of the metrics and the differences from exposure from a reach campaign versus a brand awareness campaign, even though they are under the same marketing objective, right? So again, classification is that they're both under the marketing objective of awareness. However, that marketing objective in and of itself is these two subcategories, if you will, of the awareness campaign are vastly different. Okay, go ahead, Mitch. I think you're presenting. Let me see if I can see your screen here.
I haven't shared it yet.
Okay.
I'm going to try to find the one that I was talking about. Okay, here we go.
So again, we're going to do the comparison of brand awareness versus reach. Brand awareness being, I want to get it in front of people that are interested in similar concepts to the product or service that I'm selling. And reach is, I just want everybody in the world to know about what I'm doing. All right? Okay, here we go.
Okay, so you can see it now?
Yep.
Okay. So we'll notice here that, so this top one is reach, and then this bottom one is awareness. And so the reach campaign, for the amount spent, $26.44, it reached almost as many people as this one, where we spent 4 times as much. So you'll notice 1,500 shy on reach, but it was 1/4 of the budget. So you'd think in that case, okay, I want to do reach campaigns because it gets in front of everybody. But in this case of what we were trying to accomplish with this it was kind of a balance between trying to drive engagement, but also drive reach, get exposure. And so if you dive deeper and start looking at engagement, then you'll see it almost had the same amount of reach, but it had 1/10 of the amount of reactions or likes, comments, shares, and then no comments versus 6, no shares versus 3, page likes. This was a big goal of ours actually in this case, was to get page likes. And so it had not nearly as many. And so that was shocking to me of, okay, yeah, this got in front of way more people for the amount spent, but it didn't really drive any results. And if we go back to this category again, we can also look at the cost per 1,000 impressions. This was another thing I wanted to look at of how expensive is it to get in front of a lot of people. So cost per 1,000 impressions is cost to get in front of 1,000 eyeballs. And so on the reach campaign, again, super cheap. This is cheaper than our average across all of our ad spend, this $4.45. And so this one is a little bit higher than our average, but that's okay because it was resulting in more results. Again, here's another one, click-through rate. That's just all clicks, meaning they click the like button, or they click the comment button, or they click to open the picture to look at it bigger. 4 times higher on the awareness campaign. And again, it just goes back to that question of, well, they're showing it to the same people on Facebook. These are the same exact audiences. These are the same exact posts, comparing these two. And so it's like, it's showing it to the same people. Why is there such vast difference? And it's that optimization process that Facebook is doing on the back end.
Yeah, and I think another great point that we ought to bring up here, Mitch, is a lot of times people become romantic with the results. And you'll hear me say that a lot because I love that phraseology. In the sheer fact that, you might be super excited that you reached, 5,500 people based on the amount that was spent of 2644. And you might be a little bit frustrated with the amount spent, $100, and you've only reached 7,000 people. But the thing you have to consider again is that initial reach and impression metric doesn't necessarily indicate the success of the ad set in and of itself. Meaning you have to really dive in deeper to understand what key performance indicators you really should pay attention to, and then utilize a funnel, if you will, a sales funnel or a conversion metric or pixels, to make sure that the activity or the actions that are created based on the ads are generating revenue, and not just, hey, here's an ad. And the reason I share this is there's a company here local that has another organization that's running ads for them. And they're like, we're killing it with ads and we're doing so awesome. We're getting in front of all these people. But the business in and of itself is taking a step back and saying, well, we're not seeing any conversions or any additional revenue that's been generated based on the ad dollars that have been put into it. So even though, yes, you might be getting some great exposure, some great reach, some great impressions, you have to dive deeper into, okay, what does that actually look like? So Mitch, go into that breakdown again, or into the columns, and let's dive in and just look at, because you pulled up engagements, right?
Yes.
Let's go. Yeah. So you can see here that if you talk about people taking action, which is this first column, you can see that there was 6 times more people taking action with this specific boosted post, which again, Mitch, was the awareness, right?
Yes. The bottom is an awareness campaign. The top one is a reach campaign.
Yeah. So you can see that and the reason, think about this from a psychology perspective, you're placing a post that people can associate with based on their own interest, likes, and behaviors. And so that's why there's that much more engagement. Now, so the question might be, Mitch, then is, okay, well, if that's the case, then why in the world would we ever run a reach campaign?
Yeah, and I think it can depend on your goal. Like Ryan said, some people get romantic with the results. And you got to focus on the right results, those key performance indicators that he talked about. And those key performance indicators for your campaign are going to be different every time. Mm-hmm. And so if your number one goal on the front end is just to get in front of the most people possible for the cheapest cost possible, then reach might be good in that case. I'm trying to think of a specific example when that's better than actually driving conversions, and it's not coming to me yet. But if that's the goal, then reach can be effective.
Well, right. But let's just say, for instance, that you're a brand new business in a local area, and it's kind of a unique market. Or maybe it's not a unique market. Maybe it's just an and one product, and you just really want to get in front of as many people as you can to create exposure. Or maybe, for instance, for you, you're not necessarily trying to drive traffic, but you're giving education. Right? Maybe it's just an education play where you're trying to educate the masses on who you are, what you represent, and how you can continue to build your brand moving forward. And so that's how you utilize it. You basically utilize that reach campaign just to create exposure. For instance, we've done some work with an electric bike company who, Jenny, I know you were on with us last time. And maybe in that case, let's say you're doing a group ride, right? And yes, you'd like to run a brand awareness campaign, but you really just want to create exposure to a big group of people, to invite them out to come and join a group ride, so you guys can go, they can test your bikes and ride your bikes and have that experience. I think in that context where you're not necessarily trying to sell a product, but you're trying to reach an audience and invite them to come to an event, the reach campaign would be more effective than a brand awareness campaign. But if you're trying to sell a bike or get people to come into a specific store to buy a product or service, then you'd really want to know what their interests and behaviors are. Whereas if it's just a broader audience of I just want to create exposure, then let's trigger that reach campaign first, and then even doing the next step of going reach people that paid attention, that engaged somewhat, and then turn that into a brand awareness. And it might be that next step is running a sequential ad that's a brand awareness campaign to those people. Now, we obviously consider, Mitch, going more from objective to objective to objective, but there may be times inside of your marketing or inside of your Facebook ad sets where you want to go to different elements or different subcategories inside an objective. For instance, you might run an engagement ad to create engagement, and then you might retarget those people with a traffic consideration objective that drives them now into a place where they can actually buy a product or a service, but yet they're not hot enough to run a direct remarketing conversion campaign at. So there's a lot of different steps that you could utilize. Again, like Mitch said, the number one thing you have to do is you have to identify on the front end what your goal is. You have to identify what is the element that I'm going to get across, or what am I trying to get across, and how can I best articulate that message in order to really build value long term for those people that are paying attention. And the keyword is attention there. How do you maximize the attention of those potential people based on the ad sets that you're placing in front of them on their newsfeed? I hope that makes sense, guys. Does that make sense? If it does, drop a comment here in the comments in the chat window. And maybe some questions that you have. Do you have any questions regarding that? Any specific questions that are directed towards that? We won't be getting into consideration and conversion until the next few weeks, but what questions might you have about that?
While they're thinking of questions, I would just, if you want to just have a default answer on the front end of an ad set, I would go with awareness.
Yeah.
If that's probably going to be your default. There's going to be scenarios for reach and for different stuff, but on the front end, this is the first ad you've ever run on this specific category or with this specific post. Then awareness is probably going to be a good default answer.
You know what, Mitch? And I think there's probably debate out there as far as whether or not a video view should be a consideration or an awareness, right? Because I think we've utilized video views in the context of awareness as well, because we wanted to identify and set up the metric in a way that we only wanted to be charged for video views once they watch 10 seconds or more of that video. So that's the thing you also want to consider is, there's some gray area between awareness and consideration objectives. You may want to use a video view audience as your initial awareness campaign as well to really start to pique interest of people. And a video view audience, as it says here, is to get more people to view your video view content.
Yeah, you're right. We have done that. And stuff like that, it sometimes depends on the video.
Right.
I'll see if I have a good comparison here. I don't know if I have the right ones to compare very well.
And I think you're right. I think, when you talk about running video view ad sets, the thing that you definitely need to consider and understand is what is the context that you're sharing inside of that ad set, right? Is it more awareness-based information and education, or is it more I'm trying to get someone to buy a product or service? Because if it's awareness, if you're running a video that you're trying to create exposure, so like for instance, we have a social media digital marketing event that's coming up here this month. We've run about $350 in ads at it so far, but we're using the video views in the context of more of an awareness campaign to broaden the audience. And what's funny about that is we've had a lot of people, quite frankly, that a lot of digital marketing businesses that have seen our ad sets that have been a little bit frustrated and upset with us because we're creating so much exposure for our company and our brand in an education play. So now people are starting to ask the question, well, who is this company? Some of their clients are asking, who is this company? And as we know, and as we've discussed before, the more exposure you create for yourself, the more value you provide long-term to your clientele base, especially if it's in an education-based play. So just another thing that you ought to consider when you're talking about an awareness campaign. Okay, great. Any other questions, Mitch, or anything else you want to add to that? We can stop this a few minutes early if we need to, because we don't want to pound it to death. But
oh yeah. So one thing I was going to add, we talked about how we'll show you how you can see, although it might be an awareness campaign or a conversions campaign, you can still look at the stats for conversions, for instance. So yes. I just wanted to show how to do that. So yes, in this list, I have these ones. It was a video views objective. This one was a post engagements objective. This one was conversions. And then these ones were awareness. And this one was conversions as well. So I have video views, engagements, conversions, and awareness all in here. And so if you want to look at any stats, so let's say you want to look at the video percentage, if you want to compare video views versus awareness, even though they're both videos. And you can come in here, you can go customize columns. And it'll pull up this little thing. And, you can scroll. It's crazy how many columns they have, first off. Like, you'll sit here scrolling for 20 minutes if you read all these things. So maybe just search for what you want to do. So I'm just going to search video here at the top. And now I can look at every single stat concerning these videos. If it was a video, then it will show up. The stat will show up in here. Mm-hmm. So I hit apply. And then they always add it to the end by default. And so here's all my stats on videos. Now in this case, these were all video views campaign objectives, but down here on these conversion and engagement objectives, if they were a video, if they were an image, but if they were a video, then it would show numbers here. So you can look here. Or if you want to add conversions, and you can go to customize columns, and you can go type in conversion. And so there's all sorts of conversions here. Well, let's see if I can find one that is actually going to populate some numbers. I don't know if I have, oh, here's one. I don't know how many of these conversions were in here, but you can see that we could select any specific conversion. So like 5-step guide thank you page conversion. That was a specific conversion on a specific campaign that we had that we could add in there. So you add in the ones that you want to look at, and then it'll add it on the end again. So that was conversion value. None of those were in here, so it doesn't show up anything. But you can add any column to this these stats that you want to, and look at those stats regardless of what the campaign objective is. And so it's sometimes interesting to, like that reach versus awareness. It's interesting to see, okay, what resulted in more of the results that are really important to me. You can customize those columns and put them in.
Awesome. All right, guys, we've given you some good information today. We'll have a replay of this for you that typically goes out after the event, so look forward to that. We've also started pulling some of this data and putting it into our YouTube channel. So if you go to Strategic Social Partners on YouTube, you can subscribe to our channel and start watching some of the replay information there as well. We fully appreciate your time and attention today, and look forward to seeing you guys next Tuesday again. And we'll start with that next segmentation portion, which is consideration, or the next marketing objective, which is consideration. So we look forward to seeing you then. Bye, everybody.
Bye.